All right, turning now to Michigan's economy. Governing Magazine ranked the overall economic performance of all 50 states, and Michigan is pretty much in the middle at number 23. But the interesting finding was that a state's ranking coincided with the approval rating of its governor. A stronger economy resulted in a stronger approval rating for the governor, while the governors of the bottom states had weaker approval ratings. Nolan, what do we make of this with Rick Snyder, who I think is sort of an anomalous example among governors because he's got these other problems that I think have more to do with his approval rating than
Flynn, et cetera. But he's always struggled with matching his performance rating and approval rating to the performance of the state. If you look where we were 6 years ago in these rankings, we were at or near the bottom. We were almost dead last. Moving back into the middle of the pack has taken just a Herculean effort on the part of everybody in the state, but the governor and some of the policies put in this place have to get credit for it. The Fraser Institute from Canada last week put out a report urging Ontario to mimic Michigan and the policies it's put in place under Governor Snyder, the policies to stimulate growth and job creation in the state. And yet, I mean, you look even before Flynn, he won his re-election just
pretty narrowly,
4 points at a time when the state was in the midst of a major comeback, which is really unusual.
Yeah, well, I think part of the problem is it's the connection between these things, right? So there's no question that if you cut taxes, you grow the economy, things get better in certain ways. But if you continue the sort of disinvestment that we've had in Michigan in government and government services, you create all kinds of other problems. I mean, there's a study out today from the University of Michigan that looks at what cities are looking forward to in the next year in terms of finances, and it's getting worse again, not better. So even as the economy is growing, cities and governments are not experiencing that growth, and that means the services that people count on are either tattered or disappearing.
But it's not as simple as that. I mean, what Snyder has done, and I don't think it's fair to say he's disinvested, because he has diverted a ton of money to solving the long-term obligations of these local communities, paying down the pension debt, which was a time bomb ready to go off. And if the state stays on the pace he's put them, by 2035, these pension plans will be solvent again. And nobody, when he took office, nobody was looking at a time when they would be solvent. And that's the big, it is, because it's not immediate gratification. But that's how Michigan got into this situation. That's how its communities got into this situation. Let's make everybody happy today and mortgage it to the future. Well, at some point you've got to deal with those future costs.
But when you have cities like Flint, right, essentially sitting over a balance sheet, making a choice about how to keep clean water flowing into people's homes. When you have cities like Detroit, going through bankruptcy, you have cities all over the state really struggling with providing just basic services to people. Isn't it time to rethink the strategy? I mean, it is about
rethink everything. But in these communities, in most of these communities, if you look at their retiree rolls, they have 2 to 3 times more people collecting retirement benefits and retiree health care than they do working, providing services to the community, which means the taxpayers are supporting workforce 2 to 3 times what's required to deliver services. And we've got to figure out still, and we're nowhere near doing it, how we address those huge legacy costs, and how we start perhaps extending retirement ages. A lot of these communities, you can still retire 25, 30 years and go on the taxpayers' dole for another 25, 30 years or longer.
What do you think? What do you think the ultimate verdict will be on Rick Snyder? I mean, in terms of popularity, like 2 years, he's got 2 more years as governor. He's struggled with popularity even when he's been successful in the places where he has been successful. Does he sort of reconcile those two things in the last year?
I mean, if you look at Michigan, this is not a place that has treated its former governors as heroes beyond Bill Milliken, the only one, and he had a similar problem while he was in office with this PCB incident, and he was able to recover for it. But people don't sit around saying loving things about John Engler or Jim Blanchard or Jennifer Granholm. So Michigan's a tough place. hard on its governors.